Right. So now today we'll be talking about MBA specializations. I mean, when you do MBA, you do different types of MBA. So we'll talk about those. We'll talk about how it's extremely important to choose the right specialization. Otherwise, your story for the essays will not make sense. So we'll talk mainly about that. As with other webinars, we will be sticking only to this topic. So don't ask me questions, general questions about GMAT or admissions criteria, etc. Because those topics have already been covered in previous sessions or will be covered in future sessions. So we'll keep our discussions limited to MBA specializations. We have done sessions on the significance of extracurricular activities, or we have done a session on what is the importance of work experience in an MBA application. So we have done all those sessions before, so you can watch the recordings. For today we'll be sticking mainly with MBA specializations. What kind of MBA specialization? Name a few MBA specializations that you are aware of, that you know. Okay, Amit is saying finance. Harsh is also saying finance. Anish, marketing. We have got 2 people saying marketing. We have got 2 people saying operations. It's like then okay, we have got Purvi saying HR. Vilash saying supply chain. Great. Ravi saying consulting. Harsh, strategy. Shashank, analytics. Amit is saying entrepreneurship. We have got 2 more people saying strategy. Energy management, yes, that's a niche thingy. Anu saying international business. Harsh saying non-profit. Fazal just name some. There are different areas of management, so which ones, right? Ashish, media and communication. Well, okay. Akshay, rural development, not so it's pretty niche. General management, yes. So yes, you guys seem to be aware of the most common ones. So you have already said finance. So you know what finance is. I don't need to talk about that. Marketing, However, one thing you need to know, one practical reality about the marketing specialization is that international students who end up doing MBA marketing, you run the risk of you may face a job crunch, purely because companies prefer locals for marketing jobs. So if you are if you go to a US business school and you do marketing, you might face a job crunch. US companies will prefer domestic students, locals, for marketing profiles. So that's one thing you should know about marketing. I'm not saying that you should not do MBA marketing, but the reality is that companies who hire marketing MBAs, they give first preference to the domestic students, to the locals. It is true with any country. If you go to Singapore, it's true with any country. So be aware of that. I'm not saying that you should not do MBA marketing. I'm just saying that I don't know whether you are aware of this fact or not. So you should have this fact in mind. Consulting, yes, is a very broad field. Same as finance. Finance is also a very broad field. Within that, there is corporate finance. Different types of finance is there. Consulting is also a very broad field. So if you want to know the different types of consulting, what are the different types of consulting? There is management consulting, there is marketing consulting, there is general management consulting, there is energy consulting, there is business consulting. So there are different types of consulting. So just knowing just consulting does not help. When you are going to frame your long-term, short-term career essays, mainly the short-term career essays, you should know what type of consulting would suit your profile. So if you want to know the different types of consulting available, I would recommend that you visit the websites of consulting companies. Consulting companies such as McKinsey or Bain, A.T. Kearney, so PwC. Visit the websites of these consulting companies to know what type of consulting is there, right? This will help you kind of write your essays. Ultimately, your essays should make sense. Then there's general management, of course. By the way, can anybody tell me what general management is? What is general management? What is general management? So general management is not something like, you know, BA pass course, you know, where you study a little bit of everything. It is not like that. General management does not mean that, oh, it is just a general MBA. It does not, you know, focus on anything. You know, a lot of people think that general management means just a general MBA without any specialization. That's not the case. General management means, you know, you have to know a little bit of everything. General management prepares you to run a company. That's the shortest definition of general management. A general management MBA prepares you to run a company. So to run a company, you need to know about finance, you need to know about operations, you need to know about, you know, HR. So you need to know about marketing, you need to know a little bit of everything. So general management MBA prepares you to run a company. So by that definition, you know, if you have like if you have just about 2-3 years of work experience, you know, just 2-3 years of average work experience. By average I mean regular work experience. If you are a software engineer, if you are a CA, blah, you know, all of that. So just 2-3 years of work experience, then a general management MBA does not fit into a story, right? So you have to be careful about that. However, if you have 2-3 years of entrepreneurship work experience, great, go for general management. Ultimately, general management, to be able to say that I want to do general management, it should be your short-term career goal. Then, you know, has to be a very senior management position in an organization, which you will not be able to get with just 2-3 years of work experience before the MBA. So be careful about that. Don't say general management that you want to specialize in general management unless you have 5-6+ years of work experience. Okay guys, I told you not to type in questions when I'm speaking. Okay, it's very difficult to, you know, answer your questions. So hold on to your questions till till the end, or type your questions only when I ask you to. Then MBA operations or operations management, same thing. So MBA operations, you know, so that is also a very common MBA. There are universities that specialize in MBA operations. So which has to do with basically, when you think about management, actually we mean operations management, right? It just ensures, you know, manager is supposed to ensure that the organization is running smoothly, that all the processes, the standardized processes, everything is efficient. So all of that comes under operations management, right? Where you make sure that your processes are, there are no bottlenecks in your process, that your processes are efficient, there is no wastage of labor or money because your processes are inefficient. They should not be like that. So an operations manager, so to do well as in the operations management, you know, domain, you know, you have to be, so you need some inherent skills, such as you have to be like, you have to be very organized. You have to, so these are some inherent skills you will need, you know, to do well in the operations management domain. HR, everybody knows, human resources. One thing that you should know about is that in India, a lot of the senior management positions in companies, you know, for HR, you know, are MBAs, right? However, outside India, that's not necessarily the case. You know, the senior management and higher up people in HR, they are MBAs, yes, but they come from psychology background. So even if you're doing an MBA HR, you might want to supplement it with a certificate course in psychology or something. So outside India, HR, they prefer to have people with psychology background. Okay, so that's one thing you need to keep in mind. So if you are from a humanities psychology background, and if you now do an MBA HR, so your probability of becoming successful in the HR domain is more. If you're not, then also you can still take care of it. You know, do some certification courses, or even during the MBA, try to do some certifications in, you know, psychology, right? That's a requirement of the recruiting companies. Logistics and supply chain management. So a lot of it has to this is mainly, you know, when you have international manufacturing businesses, or multi-city or multi-operations businesses, FMCG, all of those, you know, they require logistics and supply chain management, where you are where if one division stops working, if there is a bottleneck in one division, the entire process comes down crashing, you know. So that's what your That's what this domain is. And people from the merchant navy, or they are usually, they or people who have work experience in the, in the shipping industry. For them, this is a very sought after major, and their chances of getting good jobs after the MBA is far more. So if you are from the merchant navy domain, if you are from the shipping industry, or even we had a student who was an airport manager with Indigo. Okay, so for those kind of profiles, if your pre-MBA profile has to do something with the airline industry, shipping industry, or maybe the Indian Railways, all of that, so your your work profile would be given preference by recruiters after your MBA. Okay, so and your reason for wanting to do this major would make sense in your essays as well. Now, data analytics is an up and coming field. It was not that prevalent 5 years ago, but it is as I said, it's an up and coming field. So data analytics is like fast taking over the other majors. So once upon a time, finance used to be the #1 major. Then it was consulting. So I mean, the marketing and finance and consulting are still top, but data analytics is fast catching up, right? So there's a lot of demand for data analytics. So if you have a science background as a bachelor's degree, if you have an engineering background, a statistics background, a math background, if you have that kind of an educational background, then then your chances of getting admission into a data analytics MBA program increases, right? And let's say you want to shift industry, you want to get into data analytics, you do not have an engineering background, or even if you do, just to improve your chances, just to make your case stronger for data analytics, starting now, just I would recommend that you do courses related to R programming. You do courses related to big data analysis, and just to equip yourself, and the certification themselves will not come under your academics or anything, but it will show your interest. I mean, there are a lot of platforms, online courses that you can take. Probably some of you are probably aware of the online platform called Coursera. So there are courses available in Coursera, in EDX, right? So if to make your essay stronger, to improve your chances of getting admission in a data analytics MBA program, these are some things that you can do even now. Okay, your application deadlines are still some time away. If you are applying in round 2, it's in January. If you are applying in round 1, it's in October. So these are some things that you can complete even now. So I would strongly recommend that. Data analytics is a very, very competitive field now. Lot of engineers from top colleges. Engineers means people who have bachelor's degree in engineers. So they apply for this program. So I would recommend that you supplement your profile, you improve your profile. By doing additional stuff, which you can do even now. Right. So that's data analytics for you. So then real estate. Now real estate is a niche program. Real estate is a niche program, but it's wherever it is offered, it has very high high prominence. And real estate does not mean selling houses, by the way. In India, when you say real estate agent, we think that it's a broker. That's what we think. But real estate is different. Real estate when a real estate MBA would work for huge construction companies, which would and the job profile would include right from finding a location to finding vendors, to interacting with architects, to build a whole building, then coming up with a pricing for the buildings, or how to the whole layout of it. So the real estate MBA is not like equivalent to a property broker, by the way, or property dealer. Then real estate is a pretty important, pretty in demand major in India also. So in case you want to come back after 3-4 years to India also, India is right now it is pretty booming in terms of infrastructure. So your real estate MBA would work even 3 to 5 years from now in India as well. So you can actually do an MBA from the US or somewhere in real estate, and if you want to come back to, you will still get pretty high salaries, because in India a lot of the real estate development is happening now. Okay, so real estate MBA is prevalent in most of the developing and developed countries across the world. It's a very niche program. For this now, it is difficult if you without having any background. So if you have a bachelor's degree in architecture, or if you have work experience in the construction industry, then the real estate MBA makes sense. Okay, so even if you had been in, I had a case where there was a student, whose work experience was in advertising, right? Has an engineering degree, but the work experience was in advertising. So that kind of profile also makes sense. Ultimately, what the specialization that you want to do has to be continuous story, or it has to make sense based on your profile. Then there is healthcare. This is the most popular major for among doctors. We get a lot of doctors, they prefer to do a healthcare management, which is fine. A lot of them end up doing consulting also, because healthcare is also a division under consulting. So it's not necessary that you do healthcare management also. Doctors end up doing both consulting as well as healthcare. Most of our students, at least, right? Now for healthcare, it is also not mandatory that you do it's not mandatory for you to be a doctor also, by the way. You could, if your work experience is in the pharmaceutical industry. We had a guy once from who had work experience with Ranbaxy. He had started out as a medical representative and had graduated to an area manager. So he had work experience in the pharmaceutical industry. So he had gone, he did his MBA in healthcare management. So people with anything related to health, if you have work experience in that domain, it helps. Then another one is sustainable business. Anybody and everybody can apply, but here I should say sustainable, and let me just this another major called social entrepreneurship. These two majors. It helps if you have a history of community service. It makes your story stronger. It's not mandatory, but it helps to helps increases your chances of admission. Now, sustainable business, for this, as I said, if your current work experience, you are an entrepreneur, that would also help, by the way. It's not mandatory that you have to have a non-profit work background. Entrepreneurship, again, anybody and everybody can apply for this. It's just even if you do not have any entrepreneurship work experience, perfectly fine. Anybody and everybody can apply for an entrepreneurship major. Technology management. The ideal MBA specialization for software engineers who want to shift to management, right? And by the way, we get a lot of software engineers who say that, I want to shift industry, blah blah blah, etc etc. But in the US, technology is huge, and technology management is also huge. So you don't have to shift industry to something like finance and marketing, where your chances of getting a job after the MBA may not be that strong. However, if you're a software engineer, you do a technology management, you will end up with great jobs. So you have to keep that also in mind. Go explore the curriculum of technology management, and I'm pretty sure that would help you shift from pure coding to management without hampering your chances of getting a job. Then strategy, again, pretty common common major, anybody and everybody can apply. Here also, just like general management, you should be in a position, you should be able to justify your story about getting into strategy. Now for that, if your work experience is just 2 to 3 years, it becomes difficult to justify this story. They would think that you do not have in the credentials to apply for a MBA strategy. So unless you are an entrepreneur with 2 to 3 years of work experience, I would recommend that to get into strategy, it helps if you have 5 to 6 years of work experience, and if you have worked cross-functionally, if you have worked across industries, then your chances become even more. Another common is accounting. A lot of the CA that we get a lot of CA crowd, people who have done the chartered accountancy, so they get into accounting. which is great. Accounting in the US is a big thing, or not even US, across the world. So MBA accounting, MBA accounting is different from MBA finance, by the way. MBA accounting is purely accounting, taxation and all of that, which is not the same as finance, right? So MBA accounting, but for this prior domain knowledge is required. So if you are a CA, or if you are a finance professional currently working with Ernst & Young kind of firm, then you qualify to apply for this program. So anyway, coming back, so MBA non-profit, anybody and everybody can apply, but to improve your chances of admission, your story has to make sense. Therefore, if you have a history of history of non-profit, if you have a history of volunteer work, then it makes sense to apply for non-profit. Now people think that, okay, what is non-profit MBA? The non-profit MBA is extreme. MBAs who have a non-profit specializations, they get hired into this huge funds, that like your Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, IMF has different projects, they get jobs in UN projects. So MBA non-profit is an extremely excuse me, extremely highly paid job. MBA non-profit does not mean that you work for NGOs. That's what people think. People think that MBA and non-profit means you work for NGOs. That's not the case. You work for this, you get opportunity to work for UN, the IMF, WHO. You get opportunities to work in projects funded by these organizations. So for instance, an MBA non-profit would probably be made responsible for an entire project, right from generating funds to allocating that funds to different organizations, to assessing the progress, to doing impact studies, all of that. So that's what an MBA non-profit guy does. So in addition to these are the most common ones. There are some niche programs here and there, like sports management, but those are not those are not that they're way too niche. There will be programs like actuarial sciences also, but they're as I said, not that niche. So these are some of the MBA specializations that highly employable, really good. A lot of the good colleges offer these, good job opportunities, etc., etc. Right? So this is about MBA specializations, right? So now, does it mean that you can apply or you should go for whatever specialization you want to? It does not mean that you can go for whatever specialization you want to go for. So it does not. Just because you apply for an MBA specialization does not mean that you will get admission. So Harshit, SCM is this, supply chain management. The full form of SCM is supply chain management. We already discussed this. Okay. Now this is one question. This is one question. All before deciding on any specialization, there is one question all of you should ask yourselves. Why do you want to do the MBA? Can you guys tell me, what is your reason for wanting to do an MBA? Why did you think of doing an MBA? And don't try to be politically correct, right? Just give me a couple of reasons. Now, networking is a very politically correct option. Just give me a reason, your reason for wanting to. Ashish says that to have an established designation, okay, career advancement, profile change, career growth, better opportunity, better earning. Okay, I like it. There is some honesty, better earning definitely. Money and career growth, Varun, yes, that is actually the answer. Harsh Jain says career enhancement in terms of earnings and switch fields. Okay, two things. Amit Sinha, I have a company and need MBA in entrepreneurship and general management, so I can apply in company. Okay, to kind of apply that in your own company. All right. Pratik, change in current profile. So why do you have the question marks? The answer is yours. You have to give me your reason for wanting to do the MBA. Abhi, to improve my theoretical background. Okay. So why would you need to improve the theoretical background? Go a little one step more. Improving the theoretical background cannot be the ultimate goal, right? What would you gain by improving your theoretical background? Everybody else? Okay, Anukul, accelerate career progression, great. See, if you have not started thinking about this question, you should definitely. Ultimately, you will have to write this in your essays. Climb higher in the organization ladder. Okay, great. Anu, number 1, gives an edge over the non-MBAs. Teacher strategies. Again, I mean, why? What do you mean by edge over the non-MBAs? Why do you need that edge? To have a steeper career growth, right? Or something like that. There has to be an end goal. So anyway, this is one question all of you should ask yourself, right? Otherwise, if you don't have an answer to this question, you will go wrong in choosing your MBA specialization. If you go wrong in choosing your MBA specialization, you will go wrong in choosing your business school. And if you end up doing that, you will you will not be in an employable situation. So this is the basis around which everything will go. Your reason for wanting to do the MBA. This is the most important question. This will decide which is specialization. This will decide which business school. This will decide what content will be there in your essays. Without the essays, if your essays don't make sense, if your application essays don't make sense, you will get rejection. So this is absolutely the first question that you should be asking. Okay, so over the years, or even now, whatever answers you are giving, so based on that, all the answers can be like put into a few broad buckets. One is industry shift or career shift. Okay, I am into software coding, I want to get into finance, or I am into analytics, I am to get into consulting, or I am I am an engineer, I want to be a manager. So something kind of shift. Industry shift, right? This is one of the buckets, of reasons that students give about why they want to do an MBA. Next is fast track career growth. Some of you have mentioned that that if you continue doing whatever you are doing, you will probably reach a certain level after 15 years. But if you do an MBA, you will reach that position after 4 years maybe. So fast track your career growth. So that is one of the very common reasons. And this, by the way, this includes your more money, etc., etc. Your MBA essays, you cannot say that I want to do an MBA because I want more money. That cannot be written. That has to be implied. Faster career growth, implies the money thing. You don't have to spell it out, right? So then. This is one unique thing. Now we get students here that who have 10-12 years of work experience in their organization. They're already at the highest possible level possible with their degree. Now to go to the next level, they cannot go to the next level without the MBA. For whatever the reason, maybe the company has that policy that for for positions above that they need an MBA. Or as somebody here I saw that who is Amit Sinha. So he is an entrepreneur now. To expand his business or to take it to the global level, so he needs the MBA. So this is a third bucket where that is the only way to go further in the career, which is different from fast track career growth, right? Fast track career growth means that, well, the career growth is going to be there, you just want to make it happen faster. The only way to go further is different, right? So usually it is for people who are let's say who is a doctor, who has his own clinic and doing his own practice. So, or if you are an army professional, we get a lot of IAS, officers who do GMAT and go do an MBA. So, and they give this reason that okay, now this is the only way now I can go further. So, so this bucket is not as common as the first two, but when you are thinking about your reason for wanting to do the MBA, make sure that you know whether it's in the second bucket or third bucket, because there is a major difference between two, right? So so these are the reasons based on which students usually these are the reasons they want to do an MBA. Some of them can be triggered by some very small, the small reason. I'll give you a very, kind of funny fact, but it's true. In Jamboree, we also teach for GMAT. Some of you know that, right? So in May and June, our numbers, people who enroll for GMAT, the number spikes, and the number of dropout, students who start their GMAT classes and do not finish, that is also highest among students who start their GMAT courses in May and June. Can you guys tell me what it's related to? It's usually related to the appraisals. Appraisals happen in April. Then people suddenly like, oh no, I have to do an MBA. So they, the first thing they do is that, of course, they start their GMAT classes and then they just lose steam over time. So you, a lot of times, you're wanting to do an MBA can have some specific triggers, which is perfectly fine, So knowing what those triggers are, what happened, is there any specific incident that made you think about the MBA, right? Maybe, you're an entrepreneur and you went to meet a business associate and then you realized that, oh, if I had the MBA in my profile, I would have got a meeting sooner, or I would have been able to get funds sooner, So it can be anything, even if a particular incident, made that thought come into your mind, you should be aware of that as well, right? And that can go into your essays. So I just want to take on the first point. A lot of you come in this bucket that you want to shift career, shift industry, blah blah blah, etc., which is perfectly fine, right? So the first question here is a shift to what? You have to find an answer to this question. Let's say you're a software industry, you want an industry shift. Shift to what? Find an answer to this question. Sometimes you will not have a clear answer to this question. It is also perfectly okay. Sometimes you don't even know, what you want to shift to. You just know that you don't want to work in whatever industry you are currently working in. That is perfectly fine. And then, let's say you don't know what you want to shift to, if you don't know, then at least you know your interest, right? Think about, like in your current job, what are the things that you like? What are those one or two things in your job profile that you enjoy? Those will be your interest. Then think about what your strengths are. All of us have some inherent strengths. Maybe your strength is that you are you have great interpersonal skills. Maybe your strength is that you are a very good public speaker. Maybe your strength is that you are extremely organized. Maybe your strength is time management. Or your strength can be that you are very good at number crunching, or you may be extremely good at identifying patterns of anything, or you can be very good at making things efficient, or you are probably very good at streamlining things. I'm sure you have your strengths. I'm sure you know your strengths. In fact, you are the only people who know your strengths, by the way. However, I like recommending this exercise to people that sometimes, like if you just ask your supervisor or your friends or your family, saying that, okay, what do you think are my top three strengths? You may be surprised by the answer, by the way. So if you are not if you want a second opinion, I would recommend that you ask your supervisor, your people that you work with, your colleagues, your family. Ask them, okay, what do you think my strengths are? So based on your strengths and based on your interest, you should be then able to identify which industry to shift to. I'll just give you a very recent example. So I was in Pune like a week or so ago, about 10 days ago, and I was just talking to this girl, right? So she's currently a software engineer and she wants to shift, right? So I had the same conversation with her that, okay, what do you want to shift to? She said that maybe finance. I'm like, okay, why? She said, well, she had no clear answer about why. Say, okay, I think it's interesting, but she has no history to back it up. She has no academic background to back it up. So then I started by asking, okay, what are your interests? What are your strengths? She said that she has great interpersonal skills and that she is very good with numbers, and that she is very organized. So based on that, and given that she had an engineering background, so now the essays ultimately, so as I said, your essay about why MBA has to make sense, so then I recommended, okay, then I told her a little bit about what operations management is. operations management actually requires exactly the same skills that she thought are strengths. So I recommended operations operations management to her, and she did some R&D and she found it, oh well, then her answer was, okay, I didn't even know that this would suit me. So my recommendation is that that, see, there are some things that you know about, right? These are some things that you know. There are some things that you know that you don't know. You know that you don't know, okay? And then there is this whole bunch of stuff that you don't even know that you don't know, right? Now you have to explore a bit. You have to explore a bit in this area, and only then you will be able to find out exactly what you want to shift to. So do spend some time researching the different specializations, about what exactly they are, what are the requirements, what kind of skill sets you need to do well in those profiles. Go to any top business school, look at the curriculum, or look at what they speak about the specializations. You will get an idea. There are enough information available on different university websites. Do that, and based on that you need to identify an industry shift, right? Industry shift means which industry do you want to shift to. Here I would also like to add that just because you are saying that you want to do operations management now, in the essay you will write your reason for wanting to do the MBA, your short-term career goal, you will write based on operations management. Now after you reach the MBA, in the first year you will be doing different types of courses. You are not starting your major in the first year. You will start your major after the first year, right? So during that course of your first year, you may actually find something else. You may actually not end up doing operations management. You may end up doing something totally different. So right now your objective is to get admission. Understand that, right? Right now your objective is to get admission. So if you are able to find something that is in sync with your interests, your strengths, and your reason for wanting to do an MBA, work on that story. Work on that story, make your applications, get the admission. And a lot of students actually don't end up doing the major that they wrote in the essay that they wanted to do. A lot of students end up doing something totally different. So we had a student who was a classic software engineer with TCS for a few years. He was an engineer. He had a bachelor's degree in engineering from an NIT. So he had a few years of work experience as a software engineer. He applied for technology management. He got into MBA technology management. He got admission in a top 30 college. After his first year, he actually ended up doing an MBA in non-profit. He ended up doing an MBA in non-profit. So you don't have to do a degree in whatever you are saying in your essays that you want to do, right? So everybody, did you understand what I'm trying to say? Is this point clear? I'm talking about mainly two things. First of all, if you want to do a shift to industry, find out what you want to shift to. If you don't know what you want to shift to, do some research based on these two things: your interests and your strengths. And maybe let's say you are an entrepreneur, and well, entrepreneur is easy. Entrepreneur can shift to anything. Let's say you are a doctor. Let's say you are a doctor and you want to shift to MBA finance. The question you have to ask yourself is that possible? It's not. It will be very, very, very difficult. You will probably get rejection purely because as a doctor you probably didn't even study maths in your class 11, 12. We have you're not in touch with anything related to finance. So the doctor shifting to MBA finance, the story does not make sense. You're wanting to do an MBA in finance does not make sense. At the same time, if you are a doctor running your own clinic, you can then make a story that as a part of running my own clinic, so then your story is doctor plus entrepreneur, then you probably can shift to MBA finance. So it all boils down into what your current profile is and what your how you're going to build your story about your interest. And now let's say again you are a software engineer and you have worked with clients such as Citibank, and that's how you got interested in the functions of a of a financial institute, blah blah blah, you want to do that, perfectly fine, that may be, and you are probably genuinely, let's say you want to move into MBA finance, I'm okay with that. Now for the sake of your applications, just to show that you have explored your interest, it is one thing to say that I am interested in something, and it is totally different thing to say that I have explored my interest and I am confident that I want to do it. Now to make that point, I would recommend again, pursue some courses, online courses. Coursera has tons of courses in finance offered by top business schools in the world. So in your applications, you can always say that, okay, when I was working with Citibank on the product, that's when my interest in finance got peaked, and I further explored it by taking the fundamentals of finance from on this thing, or corporate finance course on this, and after that I am and that's when I realized that this is what I want to do, this is what I am good at, etc., etc., right? So back up your interest. If back up your reason for choosing a major, with reasons. Unless you have reasons, unless you have evidence to prove your interest, it's going to be an uphill task. Remember, you don't get a direct admission into any business school. You have an interview round also, right? Most of these students who get into top business schools, they don't get into top business school because they have a high GMAT score. They get into top business schools because they have clarity of thought regarding what specialization they want to get into, what are the short-term career goals, what are the long-term career goals, etc., right? And so that's the part you have to research on. GMAT is just the tip of the iceberg, right? You guys are preparing for GMAT, great, but that is not going to get you an admission. These are the admission essays are the ones that will give you the admission. So you have to do your research, make your case, and back up your reasons. Okay, if you're not sure, we also get, actually 50% of the students who come to us, they are not very sure. No, they are not. They just say, oh, well, I want to do an MBA. So when we ask why do you want to do an MBA, it's like, oh well, they don't have any reason. They just say, okay, because I want to do an MBA, and it is, as I said, it is okay. You want to do an MBA, you don't know exactly why. Okay, in that case, then you still have to write an essay, to tell the business school why you want to do the MBA. So in that case, then do some reverse engineering, that, okay, with your current profile, what short-term career goal fits most, and where does the MBA story fit in. So if you have absolutely no reason why you want to do an MBA, or if you are just wanting to do an MBA because it seems like the natural course of action, that, okay, you have done your BCom, okay, now work for a few years, okay, now let's do an MBA. And as I said, 50% of the students come, are in that category. And so in that case, you still have to come up with a reason, so do some reverse engineering and come up with a reason. You don't have a reason, come up with a reason. Come up with a reason that will be convincing to you as well. Ultimately, you will have to convince your interviewer, right? So work from that angle. So bottom line is that you need a story for your YMBA essay. You need and based on that, your specialization story has to come in, and the specialization story will have to be based on your interests, your strengths, and you should be employable. Your getting admission into that specialization should seem possible. If you are a software engineer now and you are saying that I want to get into private equity, let me tell you that is not happening. That cannot be a short-term career goal. Private equity, they do not take people who do not have finance industry background. So you have to do some research on different roles possible. Otherwise, because of your career goals essay, because of your YMBA essay, you will get rejection. Okay, any questions about the industry shift angle? How to approach? If your reason for wanting to do an MBA is industry shift, I hope you now have some ideas about what kind of research to do to build your essays, etc. Am I still audible? Ashish, your question is, if we have passion about something, then yes, it can help, but why do you have passion for something? I'm sure that you have to have some reason for having the passion. If not, then as I said, you have to demonstrate how you got interested. It can be taking courses, it can be doing activities, it can be work experience, anything, Coursera is there, EDX is there, See, from analytics to general management is not that difficult, but if you just have 2-3 years of work experience, then it will probably not be possible. See, even in analytics, right? I keep saying that it's all about the story. Even in analytics, so I know a lot of people who work in the analytics industry. So you work on projects, right? You work on projects right from making the timeline to proof of concept to pitching to clients. So which is very similar. You manage your own budget. So all of that is actually a little part of running an analytics project is very similar to running a company. You can actually give that analogy that in your analytics you did this, you talked to this client, you worked with this teammate to make this thing happen. So, and if it is if you are involved in project management, then that helps, right? But of course, if you are in analytics industry for only 2 years, you are not going to get into a project management role in the analytics industry. Okay, so for general management MBA, you have to have at least 5-6 years of work experience. Only then you will be in a role in your current organization in which you do work similar to general management. I hope I am clear on that. Pratik, your question is, how can we manage courses if I want to shift from telecom background to banking and investment equity study in MBA? Okay, from telecom background, you can see, once you start the MBA, you can take any courses. There will be mandatory finance courses and all you have to take anyway. But right now, for while getting admission or while choosing a specialization, for your essays, by the way, it does not make sense to say equity study, right? That just does not make sense. You have absolutely no background in that. Best you can do is probably technology management. You can do consulting. Consulting applies to everything, even telecom companies. So you should be sticking with those for your essays. Ultimately, what you do, as I said, people choose different majors. Show me, your question is, if I have industry experience of over 5 years in a field which is completely different from my educational background and initial work experience, would you still suggest doing online courses? No, the recommendation of online courses is not that you have to do it. I'm just saying that if you want to shift to something drastically different and you have nothing to justify that choice, then only then. So from finance to digital marketing, if you first of all you have to ask yourself how you got interested in digital marketing. Lot of people, they say I want to do something purely because that sounds fancy. But if you had some genuine reason, maybe you did a project, or maybe you worked on your company website, I don't know. What is your exposure to digital marketing? Once you are able to answer that question, then your story starts making sense. Okay, so industry shift, anything related to industry shift? Any more questions related to industry shift before we go to the next two buckets? So career growth, so both the next two buckets can be actually, I'm clubbing them into two. Career growth, it can be faster career growth, or just, the only way to go, only way to go to the next level. The need for the MBA, your why MBA, I'll give you an example, a case study. So we had this girl about 4 years ago, Jamboree student. She had a 760, okay, in her GMAT, which you would probably all agree that it's a like good score, So she had a 760. She was a doctor. She had a BDS degree, so she was a dentist, So she had 6 years of work experience, which is also good. All like tick marks in here, all the in a profile that you would consider to be a very good profile. In short, she got rejected from all the top 20 universities. Not only top 20, I mean she applied to 6 universities in top 20 and she got rejected from all 6. The problem was her career goals essay. So when she was one of her Delhi Center students. So she, after after GMAT, we were not that much in touch. So after she got rejected, then she came to us, and then we asked her to, like, okay, first thing is always, whenever a student with a good profile gets rejected, first thing we always ask to see is the career goals essay. So and then her career goals essay this thing was missing. See, with her, even though she was a dentist, and her father, her husband, her brother, and she, so they had, like, they had three hospitals, three dental hospitals basically. So she, all four of them used to work together, right? So now and that's where she worked for 6 years, right? And then in her reason, her career goals, her reason for wanting to do MBA, she said that she wanted to expand the family business. Which actually, you don't need the MBA to do that. She's a doctor. There is no finance problem. Like, they already have, like, hospitals, and the entire family is into the business. So she did not need the MBA to achieve what she said her career goal was. That was a massive problem with her career goals essay. And because of that, even with such a great profile, she got rejected from 6 of the top 20 business schools. So that's how significant your why MBA essays, and people who want to shift industry, their career goals essays, it's easy. It's not that easy to mess up the story, but people who want to fast track their career growth, or people who say, well, I definitely need the MBA. So your short-term career goal, should be such that, let's say you are here now. Okay, you are here now. This is you would say that your short-term career goal is. So without the MBA, this should not be possible at all. That's how your story should be. I'll give an example. Now this same girl, little modification here and there, she could have got admitted. Instead of saying that I want to expand my family business, if she would have just said that, well, because of my exposure, I have, I know how to run a business, I know how to like recruit, I know she already knows all of that. If she would have only said that, well, now I want to take my business to the next level, and she could have either said that I want to open in other countries, she could have gone that road, or she could have said that I would want to now take it to the take it to something like e-commerce business, where people can book appointments over the web, and the consultation can be done over the web. I want to ride the technology wave, etc., etc. She could have come up with something innovative. Just expand the word, expand my family business. She needed to actually elaborate on that. Come up with 2-3 recommendations, or 1 or 2 ideas that she had in mind. Just adding these one of these 2 things, or something else on about what she means by expanding the family business. That would have, made her career goals essay salvageable. So do you know what I'm trying to? Did you get it? Everybody, did you get the change in this story? So that's how you have to think, That's when the MBA, now then she could have gone on. Okay, so now to go to the digital marketing, I don't know, the online platform, I have no exposure to e-commerce, I don't know how the digital marketing work, I have no exposure to SEO, SMO, all of those. So the need for the MBA has to be there. If the business school feels that this person does not need the MBA to reach the career goals, that business school will give you rejection. Right? So your need for the MBA should be like that. Now I'll give another example. One common thing that I get, for people with a lot of work experience, they say that, well, I want to now become an entrepreneur, right? So I want to do the MBA. Now that is also not good enough. You have to say that because of owing to my academic background and my work experience, I probably have technology knowledge, I probably have people management experience, I probably have resource management experience, so you already have this thing. However, I have no exposure to making a budget. I have no exposure to making human resources decisions. I have no exposure to marketing. So now to acquire those skills. Now these plus this will make me an entrepreneur, make me a successful entrepreneur. So of these, I have this set. I want the MBA to acquire this second set, so that makes a good essay. Now that your reason, just saying I want to be an entrepreneur is also not good enough. Your need for the MBA should come up, right? Should come up strong. So for the career growth essays, student people, if you are saying that I am at position A, if I continue doing well in my career, I will be I'll be a project manager, something, in probably 6 years. But if I do an MBA now, I will be a project manager in I'll be a project manager in 3 years. Fine, but this is also not that explanatory. This is also not that, so why would you have to write about why will it take you 6 years, in the normal, you can say the reasons can be that in my organization the usual duration between promotion is 6 months, or it take 6 months or 1 year, whatever it is, or in my organization that the cross functional exposure is given to an employee only after the person completes 4 years. To give out some reasons, go into the depth. Just saying that this is how I want to fast track is also not good enough. Understood? Yes? Am I clear? So remember all of these things when you start writing your essays, by the way. Okay. Now, see, when you are saying that you want to fast track your career growth, by the way, just stick to one story. If you are saying you want to fast track your career growth, or this is the only without the MBA I can't go to the next level, then don't talk about industry shift. Okay, then don't say, okay, I am in the software industry, to fast track my career growth and to shift to finance. No, that's like way too. That is not helping. You have to stick to one story. So here, within the same industry. So if your story is fast tracking your career growth, maybe you like whatever you are currently doing, but you want to reach the position, high position in as soon as possible. If that is your career goal, then you can, then automatically it will require a functional shift. Let's say you are a software engineer. I keep giving examples of software engineers because most of our students are software engineers. So not all software engineers want to change industry. A lot of software engineers, from coder, they want to go to the, they want to go into the business development angle, right? They from just doing coding, they want to project management, or they want to go into business acquisition or customer relations. That's fine. That is called functional shift. So it's not an industry shift, it's a functional shift. It's perfectly fine. That's where this story comes into play, right? And then you cannot, then your specialization, if you are, let's say if you are working with Maruti or something, in an auto industry, right? And you want to, your reason for wanting to do MBA is like fast track, right? So in that case, your specialization cannot be a finance or something. Your specialization in that case can be operations management. It can be strategy. It can be general management. It can be even consulting. There is domain specific consulting, but it cannot be anything else, because you are not saying you want to shift industry. You are saying that you wanted a career growth within the same industry, which is a very actually it is an easier story to write. It will actually, if you honestly do that, if you end up doing that, it will make it your employment chances are actually good. You are not starting from scratch. You are taking advantage of your pre-MBA work experience. Here also you have to look at your strengths. Now functional shift within the let's say you are in the manufacturing industry or software industry, and you are currently a coder, or just 2-3 years into your work experience, and you want to say that you want to get into project management, right? Or then your strengths have to be, your strong points have to be like people management, good with numbers, organized, etc., etc. If you want to get into the business procurement part, then interpersonal skills or your presentation skills have to be very good. So depending on your reason, you have to choose your reason based on your strengths. Why? If you say that your interpersonal skills are great, and actually you are an introvert maybe, and you just don't, it's not that great, it will become pretty obvious at the interview round. So be genuine and be honest as far as possible. I can't focus on this enough. The story. If your story for the YMBA, if your story for wanting to do the MBA does not make sense, then you are getting a rejection. As simple as that. Based on that, based on we have discussed these 3 buckets, and based on these, and your strengths and your interests, you have to choose a major, you have to choose your specialization, and then you have to write your essay. Okay, in this I have not written your interest, but it is understood that you will be continuing in the same industry. Okay. So Pratik, your question is, I agree with you that in essay we should mention telecom something, but choose major equity banking in second year. But will there no, see, equity, first of all, again, please do your research, private equity. So you need to have banking and finance background, to get jobs. So realistically you will not get a job. So maybe you have to aim a little lower. Yes, shift to definitely for mergers and acquisitions. You are not getting a job directly after the MBA if you do not have a finance background. That's as simple as that. Companies, go to company websites. Look at the job postings, look at the criteria that they need. You'll get a better idea of the functions, you'll get a better idea of the roles. Okay, so if you have to go into finance, or it's something purely non-finance, then financial analyst is something that works, that works, you can start there, right? Ravi, your question is, how do one project the shift from IT to consulting in the essay? And do you also support us in writing essays? Okay, see, IT to consulting is very easy, because consulting is it's a very nice field, because it has different domains. There's nothing called consulting. Okay, by the way, consulting will have domains like management consulting, IT consulting, business consulting. So you can always say that now you want to get into IT consulting. Okay, so as I said, even if you don't do it, even if you want to actually work in the consulting industry, it helps to start with the IT consulting domain. So you'll be doing business consulting for IT companies, right? Ultimately, business consulting is always business consulting. But what kind of companies or what kind of industry companies that you do consulting for, it helps if you choose the industry based on your pre-MBA work experience. Okay, Ravi, did you get that? Amit Sinha's question is, I have company, what my focus of specialization should be? Entrepreneurship, strategy, general management. See, not entrepreneurship, because you already have it. Now, why you want to do the MBA will be important. If you want to to make your company a global company, maybe an international business would work. So why you want to do an MBA would decide what specialization you want to get into. So some of you already know this slide, right? So if you have any questions, if you have very profile specific questions, you can write to us. You can write to us at this email ID. It will we'll get back. We'll be able to answer your questions better actually. If you send your profile specific questions to this email ID. If you want to view our previous webinars, it's there on our YouTube channel. You can check those out. So Ashish, if you want to pursue sports management, so again, if you have been a sports person yourself, that helps. No, there are MBA programs which give out sports management specializations. And if not, then consulting works. Thanks for your time.